This is Brendan O'Connell and Thinking About a Genius on Thursdays. Today I'm following an American back to Paris and thinking about the late, great Joan Mitchell. She was born in 1925 in Chicago and grew up going to the Art Institute, where she was introduced to some of her major influences like Cézanne, Van Gogh, and Monet. In 1959, she moved to Paris, and in 1968 to a northwest suburb of Paris, where she painted until her death in 1992. Mitchell had more than a few obstacles to being considered one of the giants of abstract expressionism. One was being born a woman, the other being born late and relegated to the second generation. Leaving New York and moving to France didn't help, and neither did being a cantankerous alcoholic who picked her share of fights. And still, she left a staggering body of work. In 1991, I moved close to Beaubourg to write a novel about painters. I picked up a pencil and taught myself to draw and wandered the museums. Joan Mitchell was one of the first abstract painters I fell in love with in the Pompidou Center. I found the way she made marks on an unprimed canvas curious and exciting. There is something so vibrant about her paintings. She had a violent brashness that felt American and a palette that felt French. I always liked the line and movement of New York gestural abstraction, but preferred the colors of other painters who seem to feel and love color. To my taste, her color is so much more alive than other painters who were committed to gestural abstraction. You see the palette of one of her French contemporaries, like Manessier, married to the sometimes aggressive violence of de Kooning. The most consistent influence in subject matter was landscape. For many years, she had a studio not far from Giverny, where Monet painted, and it's easy to see the influence of Monet on her work in the series of paintings called La Grande Vallée. In this series, she doesn't veer far from the primaries. It's also apparent how she absorbed the most exciting and transformative painting from 1880s to 1940s. Mitchell cited as a personal influence Vincent van Gogh and viewed his painting The Wheat Field with Crows as Vincent's suicide note, to which she painted an homage and response called No Birds. That tripartite vision of landscape is apparent in a lot of her paintings. I also see many juxtapositions in Joan Mitchell's work: subtlety versus in-your-faceness, violent aggressive strokes versus smooth, mollifying pastel textures. She said that her paintings were meant to convey the feeling of a dying sunflower, and some come out like young girls, very coy. They're very human. Next time you are in a museum and can see one of her paintings, look at how she made it. The paint flung, the brushwork, the splatter, the mashing. Sometimes you can feel the rage and the sigh.